Well, this is Red Block Jesus, but I have made another bad financial decision. And I bought a Miata. I've had Miatas before. This is my third. I didn't own Miatas when I was mechanically inclined, so I never really knew what I was doing. I just drove them because I liked them. But now that I know how to work on cars, I bought a non-running Miata. This particular one is a 95 in Laguna Blue with a tan interior. I believe these are a rare combo or something. I don't know. It's supposed to have a tan top, but it's got a black top, which I prefer. But this car does not run because it does not get fuel, apparently. And just drove to Lake Charles, Louisiana last night to pick this guy up. Didn't get home until 2 o'clock in the morning. Tried spraying some starting fluid in there and starting it, and it just immediately backfired. Fireball. So obviously it has spark, and a good bit of it. So I'm really just gonna pressure wash this engine bay real quick. It's got a bunch of new parts. You can see a new alternator down there. He did a lot of stuff to it. Unfortunately, it has what looks to be some cheapo coilovers, which I'd rather these cars not have coilovers when I buy them. Top's seen better days. Plastic window. Gas cap's coming up. Paint's coming up a little bit. Obviously, we're not sealing pretty well. That's ripped. Mirrors in the back. But we're missing the leather seats that are tan. We've just got the stock black fabric seats. She's got the power mirrors, power windows, cruise control. 200. Well, it says 148,000 miles, but I highly doubt that. I'm sure that's 248. Who knows? It's got some ugly radio in it. It's got the style bar, which is probably going to get taken out. Other than that, I think it would clean up pretty nice. Some tacky floor mats. Oh, she leaks some water. That's okay. It's probably coming from right here where it doesn't seal. Actually, I think it's because this latch is missing a few bolts in it. But I'm gonna get this engine bay cleaned up and start tearing into this and see why it don't run. It's either gonna be a fuel pump relay, a crank sensor, or a cam sensor, which the cam sensor is right here next to the distributor. Actually, it might be this guy. I don't know, it's one of the sides. But something's not sending it fuel. It's got a brand new fuel pump in it and all kind of other stuff. When I was looking at the car, it had absolutely no oil on the stick, and I put 2 quarts of oil in it, and that finally got us a reading, which is a little scary, but you know. What's also scary is the fact that there's, well, damn it. There's almost nothing in there, but there's no milk, so I'm hoping it's not a head gasket issue. But let's get this guy pressure washed and cleaned up a little bit and maybe move it into the garage so I can work on it. All right, well, I wasn't really going to record anything on this car because I didn't think it was going to be that big of an issue to fix the car. But but that turned out to not be the case. So we were not getting spark from the cam angle sensor for obvious reasons, the camshaft. This is what's left of the intake camshaft. Intake camshaft. You can see that snapped in half. So at some point it ran dry up here and decided to weld itself right here. So there is no oil journal there, just straight weld. And so only the front side of the cam was spinning. The whole back side that spins the cam angle sensor was not spinning, so it had no spark. Going back around the car, I did clean the car, detailed it because I was bored. So it's actually a clean little car, but whatever. Right now I'm getting ready to pull the motor out just because I am not sure what the bottom end's gonna look like since the head looks like this up top. All these metal shavings. You can see some down in here. So I'm sure I'm sure a lot of these shavings made their way down to the pan, and I already drained the oil, and that is the case. So I'd rather pull this motor out and open the pan, look inside, see how healthy it looks. Most likely throw new bearings in it, maybe rings, just because I don't know how healthy this motor is. It had decent compression. It had, I believe, well, it only had 145 in cylinder 1, 190 in cylinder 2, 0 and 3, and 180 something, or I think 175 in cylinder 4. I know spec is like between, it's supposed to be 180 and below, so between 128 and 180 psi. Not sure why cylinder 2 has 190. It could be something to do with the way these valves are closing. I don't know, but wow. Oh, that one's stuck, ain't it? So it definitely needs a new head because that journal's screwed and needs new cams. I'm not gonna know the extent of the damage until I pull the motor out and look at the rest of the inside of it. And I'm pretty much gonna give this the same treatment as I give Volvos. It's gonna be, if this motor is healthy and savable, it's gonna be all new seals everywhere, new hoses, new water necks. I mean, any little thing that I can replace in the long run, I'm gonna replace it now. Might throw on some headers on it, I don't know. Go ahead and replace the cast and the coil pack just to do all that crap now and not have to do it down the road. I think this car's AC works. I purged the system over there and it has Freon in it, so I'm just gonna take that for what it is. The belts all need to be replaced. They're all riding against the, oh wow, they're shredding against the pulley. But just got the radiator out. You can see how good that looks in there. It was, for the most part, green, and then toward the end the brown shit came out. So I'm gonna keep tearing into this thing. It's a whole new territory from red blocks. So kind of just taking my time, notating where all this crap goes. And hopefully should have this thing out by tonight, if not tomorrow. Seen a lot of metal in there.
Oh my God.
Well, Project Miata is back in full effect. The blue sedan is sold, and I'm able to now fund this project. I'm not sure if this is what y'all want to see, but it's getting uploaded anyway, so if I happen to get any Miata people on my profile, here you go. This is the shit I usually do, but now I've got this. So recap on the motor, what ended up happening was I bought the car in Lake Charles, Louisiana, about 4-hour drive, was told it had no spark, tried to start with starting fluid to see if it was a fuel pump issue, and it backfired out the intake with a flame, so it had some spark. And took a chance on it, said screw it, it probably just needs a fuel pump, and brought it home. Got it home, pulled the valve cover off, and this is what I found. The exhaust camshaft is in 2 pieces. Ruined the entire head, fucked the journal on it. And the reason it got spark for a split second, it only got spark when you would turn the key on, not when you would crank it. And it's because this is called a cam angle sensor, but you can think of it as a distributor sends spark based on the cam position. And I'm thinking that the initial 12 volts being sent to this when the key was turned on is what sent that one spark. But obviously it was only spinning the back half, it was only spinning the front half of the camshaft and not spinning that part, so it wouldn't get any spark out of that. And I've got a clip of that, but I took it apart and noticed all the metal shavings everywhere. And then went ahead and tore the motor down, ended up cleaning out the cylinder walls to see how they looked, cleaned up the pistons. Pistons are fine, but the walls do have some deep scarring and vertical scratches, as seen in, I think, cylinder 1. Yep. See a nice scar there. Cylinder 1 had the lowest compression. I was only able to get compression readings on 1, 3, and 4. Number 2, I'm guessing one of the valves were open because of the camshaft. But, you know, this one had like 130 PSI or something like that. Something small or low. More scarring in there. So I flipped it over, pulled the pan, and I'll show a clip of what the pan looked like. And the bearings, they were completely chooched. So now that you've seen that, I decided to just get another motor. I was gonna rebuild this, but the cost to have this rebuilt and get a replacement cylinder head probably would have been the same cost as just getting another motor that I knew ran and drove. So I just decided to not even bother with this, having to bore this out or maybe even sleeve it depending on how bad it is. And then new piston rings, new bearings, new crank bearings as well. Like it just, and I didn't even know if the crank was scored or not. So I don't want to take a chance on this motor. Only good thing on here is a brand new alternator the guy put on like 3 months after or before he sold it to me. So I sourced this engine about a week ago. It's about 4 hours away from me. The car is a 95. This came out of a 94 with 104,000 miles on it. 155 PSI across all 4. Now spec is between 128 and 175 to 180, but since they're all even 155, I'd say it's healthy enough. And that being said, this motor, I am waiting on some parts. I'm gonna be doing not a full reseal because these don't really leak from a lot of places. The main places they leak from is the O-ring on the cam angle sensor, which is that guy right there. Okay, it's not gonna focus, so that guy right there. And it'll leak all the way down the head on the back side of the engine. Obviously, rear main seals leak. Don't know if this one's leaking yet. And then front crank and cam seals leak, which this one is drastically. It's got a new belt on it though, that's cool. But I ordered a new water pump set, new timing belt, tensioners, cam O-rings, crank, cam O-rings, cam seals, crank seal, rear main seal, intake and exhaust manifold gaskets, and a couple other things I can't think of, a thermostat, new slave cylinder, because this one was rusted to shit. Also doing some little stuff at the moment. This shifter has seen some better days. So, got a full boot kit, all new bushings for that. Also for the interior, when I went to go get this engine, the car that this came out of, it was hit on the passenger or the driver's side door and a little bit on the front. So it still had a bunch of interior parts. And this car originally came with the tan leather interior, which it now has black seats, but the rest of it is still tan. And I was gonna keep the tan, but considering the car has a black vinyl top, bronze wheels, blue paint, red calipers, I just don't think the tan is gonna look good in this car. So I'm gonna be doing a full black interior swap and probably getting these reupholstered because they've seen better days as well. But just doing little things. Like you can see this guy here is all scratched up and worn out. So obviously I have a new bezel for that. Need to get a new steering wheel for it and a couple odds and ends. I am gonna replace the center console only because there's 4 little screw holes there. I don't know if someone had some makeshift boot on there, but it's gonna bother me, so I'm just gonna replace it. Doing the visor delete where you just unscrew these and there's like a little 3D printed thing you put in here to block it off. I do need to get another top for it eventually because this one has holes pretty much everywhere. The driver's side's a lot worse and it's a plastic window. So I'll be doing the glass back window, hopefully with defrost if I can find one. And I will be taking out this absolutely god-awful roll bar that's in here that looks like it was painted with a interior paintbrush. Looks hideous. I did just replace these seals because the other ones were completely rusted through and looked terrible. I'm sure you could see them in the beginning clips of this car. Need to sand this stuff down, paint it black, flat black. Get a new cowl cover. Take these wiper arms apart, paint those black. I'm doing all the stuff that I do to Volvos to this car. Now this car might get a paint job. It was painted previously. You can tell on some spots there's some overspray. And we have some paint fade on the front and back bumper. Some clear coat fade up here. But that'll be further on down the road if I do decide to keep this car, what I think I'm going to. But other than that, new motor's good. So they came with pretty much everything, like power steering, AC, the pump, clutch kit, intake, injectors, spark plug and wires, another cast. So this is gonna get a half reseal. It's pretty much getting a full reseal other than head gasket and oil pan, because these oil pans don't really tend to leak and I haven't seen any signs of it leaking. So I don't think it needs it. And also the head gasket, it wasn't smoking in the video they sent me when it was running, and it has decent compression, so I'm not gonna bother with the head gasket. If it needs a head gasket 4 or 5 months down the road, I'll do one. It's like probably an hour job, not that big of a deal. But this is what we're working with. I'm gonna see which one of these clutches is the better of the two, the one from this motor or the one that came in this car, which is currently in the trunk. If they both look iffy, I'll probably just order a new clutch. They're like 200 bucks, it's nothing. Come with a flywheel and all that. But yeah, you can see here, the paint fade. So she's not the prettiest, but I think we can get this thing looking right and running right. I've wanted another Miata for a very, very long time, and this is the perfect opportunity to get one, is to buy it, let it sit for 3.5 months, get a new motor, and throw it in and call it a day. But other than that, I will update you guys when I start getting parts in and start resealing this engine and getting ready to put it in. Other than that, I've got nothing for you. If you don't want these kind of videos where I deviate from Volvos, don't watch it. I don't know. Go watch Dana Machines or someone else. But I do love my Volvos. Just branching out a little bit. Maybe I'll throw a red block in it.